Problems occur due to how we define X rather than what X is. It's something that I have observed, and I think you could observe too in your life. How many times have you done something that you thought was right, and then later on seen another thing or seen somebody else do something, and then you realize, oh man, I was completely wrong about doing that. I thought I was doing something entirely different than this person was doing, but they do it in a way that shows you how wrong you were about something. How many times have you done something in the past or thought that was wrong? I would never, ever, ever do that. Why would anybody do that? Then you see somebody else doing that same thing from a different point of view, or explaining why, you see the result of it, and you say, oh wow, that's rather amazing. I didn't realize this could actually end up to this. And then all of a sudden you start doing that thing. And there's more and more examples of that happening here in the world. And this video coming up is a bit of my Meme Whisperer series. I'm recording this after recording the different bits because I put these cobbled this thing together. But something happened with Colbert doing this thing in a obscene, blatant sort of way that I think is just another example of people having a better ability to define X for what X actually is. Hey, what's up? Silas here. Just a quick meme whisperer type of thing. This is when I go online and find different things that I see online, and I do a little deeper dive, below the surface dive, or try to point out some things that I don't see too many other people pointing out that I think are somewhat important. There's this video that's been going around. A lot of people have been posting on this. I think I've seen on my wall at least 6 or 7 people now. That of course selects for the people that I follow and things like that. And it's been making the rounds on, it's the vaccine, as you can see here. That's it's a clip from the Colbert Show, and John Miller posted it here, and many other people have posted things. As you can see, it has 2.7 million views, and he just posted it yesterday. But anyway, so he says, how could Colbert lose to Gutfeld the ratings with this act like this? And then one of the typical things that you'll see right here is a typical tactic of rhetoric that people do. They'll come on here and say, oh, Gutfeld lost to the 18 and 46 demographic against the return of Colbert. LOL. This is also according to TV ratings, which are also biased towards the elderly, since young people don't watch TV. They watch it online later. So you see, this person is, by pointing out on something that John Miller said, accurate or not, he's going to point out on the ratings thing, ignoring the absurdity of the actual act itself. So now he's, oh, you're wrong about him losing to ratings, so let's focus on that and not what was actually going on with this. And so some other people just talk about, oh, funny thing is he thinks he's a comedian, he's all these things, he's watching Gutfeld the same fascination as watching Total Overflow. People now are focusing on the Gutfeld in this situation, when the people who are supportive of Colbert, I'd say in this case, the people probably left, politically leaning left, so they're like, oh yeah, look, we're good to focus on Gutfeld. And yeah, Gutfeld, I don't like the whole aspect with the, what's it called, the laugh tracks and things like that. I find it a bit also odd to watch in that sense. So seeing some of that stuff doesn't really appeal that much to me. But the main focus is here. This thing in and of itself. People are talking about how this is cringe. Oh, we need some things for vaccine for cringe. This is horrible. I can't believe he's doing this. And as you can see, I don't know if this can dance. You can hear in the back. But this is and it's just a dance number. I guess he's come back from break. I don't watch the Colbert Show. But this looks pretty bad. I mean, what's all this animation going on? The people dancing, doing the goofy dance, and so I don't know. There was probably practice before they actually got into the actual thing, before they actually got into the actual show. I think the people come in before. But now you look at this. There's something in here that I want you all to see. Just look at the people clapping around. And yeah, this is bad. But focus on this lady right here. I just saw this when I was finally watching it, because I'd seen some people posting. I was like, I'm not even going to watch it. But look at this lady right here. Look at this. I'm assuming she considers herself. Okay, first with this person, I just noticed this person now. Probably watching on the top or the chandelier or the things there. It's like so happy, so amazed. Look at all these people just clapping along. Look, she's like holding the fingers. It's like, what was she doing? I was wondering, what was she doing? But then look, she's holding her fingers. Then when Colbert turns, she does the V thing. And there was a time back when the WHO or something was, one of these international organizations was saying, when the vaccine rollout was beginning, they were saying, hold out the V sign for peace and for vaccine. And I'm like, wait, no, that V sign is supposedly for peace. That's what it's supposed to be in the past. But then how many people are like peace and they actually don't really do anything about peace? It's just a symbol that they say. It's just, oh, the peace symbol. Yeah, peace, free love, peace. But now it's turned into vaccine. And this woman, this female, I'm assuming she identifies as a woman, was sitting there this whole time. Colbert came, her and the man sat next to him, like, oh, look at Colbert. You pull up this old woman. I don't know if this old woman had been told before that she was going to be one of the people pulled up to dance with. I'm guessing tested and everything, all that, everybody tested. But she sat there ready to have him turn around and then flash the V. Nobody else really seems to be doing it. Like, nobody really seems to be clued in on the whole, like, V thing. But to her, that's something she picked up and she decided, let's do this. So, yes, you can focus on how cringe this whole thing is. This how contrived all of this is. How set up and scripted. People might think, like, I can't believe people came together and actually thought, we're going to do this and we're going to put this out. People are saying, oh, like, I'm thinking, who is this targeting to? Because the people, like that woman with the V sign, flashing the V, she's already been vaccinated. So who is this targeting to? But when you go to a church, when you go to a location like that, they also do preach to the choir. The choir sings, and it's not like the choir leaves and doesn't hear the sermon. So this is entirely just stuff to the choir. This is stuff to the inner sanctum of the people. There's a lot of people who are probably just Democrats and things like that, who are supportive of Colbert. There's probably people who are left-leaning, who like this kind of content. There's probably people who are not left-leaning as well, who might like this kind of campy content, and it's to those people. I understand that this is marketed to those sort of people. But when people who aren't really too familiar with this content, people have their own objections to this, and there's been some good videos going out of several NFL players, and not NFL, NBA players. I think there's one from the Orlando Magic, I forgot his name. So the person's name was Jonathan Isaac. He plays for, is it Isaac? Jonathan Isaac was Isaac. Why am I saying Isaac? Well, Jonathan Isaac, I think. He plays for the Orlando Magic, and he posted here, this is Beyond the RK. I think this has something to do with the Magic site. I don't know. It's something with the Magic. But anyway, he comes here and he posts this, and this was addressing something else. This is a quote that he says here. I am not anti-vax. I am not anti-medicine. I am not anti-science. I didn't come to my can't vaccination status by studying Black history or watching Donald Trump press conferences. And in this case, I guess he was misconstrued in some sense. And you should listen to what he says. It's about 2 minutes here, but he just talks about he's had COVID before. He knows that when you take the vaccine, supposedly reduces the chances of you getting a severe disease, a severe situation when you actually get the disease. But it doesn't mean you can't be you're going to be uninfected just because you're vaccinated. It doesn't mean you can't spread it just because you're vaccinated. Just having a vaccination for having the disease before and having having antibodies doesn't mean you're not going to be able to have it again. He understands these things. He's just made the calculation that for him, looking at his age group, looking at his health, he's analyzed the situation. He's come to an understanding with himself and saying, okay, I'm not taking this yet. That might change in the future, and he's just saying that the environment where you can't even discuss that without being castigated, without being treated as some sort of inane person, then you have one people on the other side, like that Colbert thing, where it's like some can type of thing, celebration, flashing the V and shaking and things like that, and then here you have him just like, look, I still want to take it. I don't think it should be that big of a deal, and I think these kind of things are positive. Getting this information out there, it's a good time to be alive. Some of the things are pretty bad, but it's a good time to be alive, to be seeing behind the curtain, seeing things for what they actually are, seeing what is contrived and what isn't. This seems to be a man sitting there who had thought of these things, and he's being asked something. This is definitely nowhere close to as contrived as when you see Biden on stage talking about his thing. So if this is a more authentic background, what would make this, if you talk to him when he was actually outside playing basketball on some court, would that make him any more authentic from what he said? No, the background shouldn't really matter. The planning shouldn't really matter. Look at the actual content being in there, and I think that's a positive thing. And then there was Bradley Beal from the Washington Wizards just talking about with the situation. Yes, we're not completely against this. We're against the mandates. People should still have their choices. Whatever you stand on that. But if you think this presentation in and of itself is extremely cringe, then you should understand that when you watch the M5M, the mainstream media, when you read the newspapers, when you watch people at rallies, when you watch the press conferences, when you go to schools and you see what's actually in these government schools, in the actual schooling indoctrination complexes, when you go to watch movies, when you go to watch all these things, they're as scripted as this is. They're as scripted and contrived and calculated as this is. Some of the things are hit, some of the things are missed. If this makes you cringe, all of those other things should make you cringe as well. And that's why I'm kind of glad and happy that people are doing this blatantly, this openly, because people will start seeing this and be like, wait, how contrived is this? We can see how contrived this is. We can see how kind of baseless this is, how seemingly nonsensical some of these things are. But then now they'll also be able to apply that to the other things that they think, oh, that's more genuine, that's more well-meaning, that's more coming from from a good place. Like, no, all this stuff comes from the same place. These people are just doing their jobs in some situations. A few of the people are true believers. Like, I think when you talk about this woman flashing the V there, like, hey, V, I'm vaccinated. Look at me, Colbert. Like, she's showing two Colbert. She's never showing to the cameras. Like, look at me. I'm flashing the V. I know about the things. It's the kind of things where you go to church, normally you see most people are just sitting in the pews, going along, listening along. It's a social thing. It's a thing to do. Then some of the people will be in there feeling the Holy Ghost, like falling down, and they'll be the Bible thumper type of people. That's how you see it in these kind of situations. This is just the very dedicated people to the current religion that's going on, that has most popular current status religion in the world. There's another one that I've seen going around with with Biden getting his booster shot, and then they're saying it's on a stage with like the fake made to look like an actual room but that's a common thing. That stage, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that stage in particular might have been used for other things that I've seen in the past. Biden situation, as you can see, this is a stage where he was getting his booster vaccine, his booster, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the technical name they're using to call it is, but the third shot that he's getting. But you see, they're posting this and saying, yeah, that's not what was the actual term that they wrote? And I think this Noor bin Laden, this actually is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is Osama bin Laden's actual sister, somewhat related, and this whole situation going in. People have known each other, again, highlighting the actual contrived nature that happens behind the scenes. Now we're just getting things ahead of the scenes. This whole stage has been used for other things. I'm pretty sure I've seen it being used for something else. But yeah, that's not weird at all. Why is it weird? And what's weird about this? Somebody says, okay, why not an authentic backdrop though? Why? What's going on stage isn't authentic. So what would an authentic background make you consider it to be more authentic? I think we might as well see that it's artificial. People watch TV shows and we realize TV shows are not authentic, but we still know we can learn and we can read books and we can read fiction, we can do these things. But this whole mistaken idea that certain things that we see being done by certain people who haven't come out and officially declared themselves as actors are more authentic. But no, they're just as inauthentic. When you're at your job, how authentic are you about the product that you're selling, about what you're marketing? And in many of the cases that you'll find, it's inauthentic. When you are posting online and talking about things, how authentic are you about the things that you actually think? You'll find out that you probably do certain things in a bit of an inauthentic way. How often do you actually talk to your friends in an authentic manner? And I think you will also find a similar thing there. There is some inauthenticness in what you actually do in your life. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, but it's just what you think has to be done. It's part of living in a society. So people just need to realize that that is what's happening a lot in the world. There's a lot of propaganda going on. There's a lot of messaging. There's a lot of marketing. This is what people do. And that's why I'm thankful for people like Colbert. I'm thankful for people like Biden coming out and doing that. I'm thankful for the AOCs and the Greta Thunbergs. There's another Greta Thunberg thing going around the world where she's like, blah, 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 blah. And some people are supporting it. Some people will watch, like, now this.
Blah, 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 blah.
Is more left-leaning, so they'll be more in support of this. Our hope dreams come down to empty words and promises.
Some expensive, politically correct, green-ass, bunny-hugging, or blah, blah, blah.
And that is a key thing, because it is blah, blah, blah. That's what they're doing. Now, if this makes you cringe, if somebody looks at this and we cringe at the people clapping and laughing and cheering along with her while she's saying this, realize you should cringe even when John Kerry or these supposed high-level UN meetings are happening. Just because a child is doing it doesn't change it from being any cringe. Just because it's a youth event and youth people are doing it doesn't change it from being any more cringe when it's 75-year-old, old, rich, wealthy people with all this power saying the same sort of things. they might as well be saying blah, blah, blah in the side. The people clapping and cheering along might as well be saying blah, 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 or cheering to blah, blah, blah. The companies, the big, massive multinational companies that are making these advertising campaigns about it, they might as well just be saying blah, blah, blah. And I think someone like her pointing this out, this being out there, is a positive thing to see. What are their solutions? you see, like here with the post-millennial, which is more, I guess, right-leaning of a site, they're kind of pointing out that the audience are cringe, and the audience were cringe. But if this makes you cringe, why doesn't everything else with the whole climate catastrophe movement make you cringe? Climate impact is very real. Listen to people like Alex Epstein who talk about these kind of topics of the actual things and the actual solutions. Because Greta Thunberg will talk about blah, 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 blah. These people will clap, but what are the actual solutions that these people are talking about? And there's zero to none. They're actually things that make things worse. They're going to say, oh, the government and the state did these things, created these kind of situations, and in order to solve these situations, we need more government and state. No, we need better solutions. We need people actually talking, facing reality, seeing the way things actually are, and not just the blah, 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 both in this performative blah, blah, blah of Greta Thunberg, and the also other performative, but not considered performative blah, blah, blah of the United Nations and all these other global institutions. So that was it. I tried to cobble those things together. I hope you can see how these different things coming in, Greta Thunberg coming in, now you people can see, oh wait, when Greta says the blah, 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 actually literally says the blah, 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 you might be able to now hear the blah, blah, blah between the things where Joe Biden is like, build back better. Everything else between that is essentially blah, blah, blah. So agree with Greta or not, it is blah, blah, blah. Like you can actually tell the actual X being discussed here is a bunch of nonsense. It's theater, it's fluff. Anything can be put in there and people will clap. When you see Biden on the stage, some people focus on, oh, look at how artificial this is. This is inauthentic. But they don't realize that most people don't really care about authenticity in that sense. We're not selected for authenticity. We're selected for convenience, feeling of safety, certain other things that are not necessarily there. Now, in the past, you didn't necessarily see the stagecraft. You didn't necessarily see what was in the back. Things will be done in a cleaner sort of way. So somebody can focus on that, but also ignore the fact, the whole staged nature of everything else that has been going on the actual stage, regardless of the location. People now go in and learn about spoilers about movies and TV shows and things like this in completely unreal settings, but then they demand that they be accuracy and authenticity to a certain aspect of it, yet completely don't care about the inauthenticity of the entire actual content, the entire actual medium, the entire actual genre that this is being discussed in. What is the specific thing that they want to be authentic out of this whole thing that is inherently inauthentic? And then last, you have Jonathan Isaac, who just goes out and he just gives a clear, relatively unemotional take on the content that some people on one side are defining the issue to be on, and then you see the reaction from other people. Like even when he stated it clearly, his own position on it, other people on the political right, other people on the political left took that content and then misconstrued it for whatever they want to define it as. That he has to come back again and redefine it and say, look, this is what I'm saying. I'm literally just saying this. I'm not anti this. I'm not anti that. Like I've talked about in a previous video where people say, oh, I understand with the Black Americans, their histories. Like I'm not going back into Black history to look at this. I'm looking at this issue right now, this X right here. I'm talking about this X, and my decision is based off of the X that I've found here. I'm not yet comfortable with doing X, and I don't think people should be forced to do X, but I understand why other people want to do X. That is all he's talking about, yet other people are putting on these other things into it. People will take that and misconstrue it and apply other things to what he actually said. So now back to Colbert. What did Colbert say by what he did here? What was this whole dance? Even that dance I was thinking, it was like, I forget. I was kind of thinking it looked sort of like the Michael Myers, Austin Powers type of dancing when he's doing that. When people watch Austin Powers and see him doing the dance, they don't actually think Michael Myers believes himself to be some spy from the UK named Austin Powers that shags all these people. They don't actually believe that from him. But why do people watch Colbert and think Colbert actually believes anything that he's doing? He does believe it's something worth training for, worth doing the little dance steps, worth practicing, probably worth coming out there and airing. That's all that you can really infer from what's actually out there. But the internal beliefs, the internal reasons that they're doing it, those are things that we can't necessarily understand. And with that, I think many of these problems come when people impute certain motives onto people and then impugn their character after those, based off of these false motives that are put on these people, instead of just trying to understand what exactly are these people saying? What are they actually about? What are their actual intentions? What do I actually want? What do I actually require from these people? How can I actually convince people to do things or that I think are positive that might help them? These are things that I think we can take more time to actually do, and the world will be better. The case for human flourishing, the chances of us actually becoming Solarians and leaving Earth and actually spreading into the solar system, getting these Earthlings all together, just making a better life for all of us on this spaceship Earth, come from actual having better conversations, going from the information age and entering the understanding age. Nothing you see from Colbert, nothing you see from Joe Biden, nothing you see from these people going on with this pandemic going on, nothing is really brand new. These are things that have been happening in a lot worse situations in the past that we didn't know about. Now that we know about and see some examples of these things, they might seem a lot worse than things that have been in the past. And if you really think about it, anybody who really understands history, who's actually studied history, will in general know that the only good thing about the good old days, one of the only good things, is that it's good that they're old. That's in the past. History may rhyme, but we're getting to a time where the lows don't have to last as long as they did in the past, and the highs aren't as breakneck and uncontrollable. You can have more control. We can kind of auto-tune our own history, our own reality, due to the amount of technology and information and awareness and just general human ingenuity. We're living in the best time that has existed to be humans, which is why some of these things, with the more that you possess, the more you stand to lose. So when people were just at the floor is always the floor. You can only fall so far. But if you have a 100 floor building and you're on that top, you have the chance of falling down to 100 floors. So even though in the past, people might have just been constantly scraping themselves on the floor, you weren't falling anywhere because you were always down there. But now it seems a lot more fearful because you have this much further space to drop. In addition, some people lose sight of the ground. They live on the floors that they're in. Let's say you're on the 50th floor and you just spend your entire life on that 50th floor. It's easy to forget and miss out the fact that other people are behaving and acting in ways, but that floor that they're walking on, that floor below your feet, is still part of the building that's actually built onto the actual ground. Yeah, in the future, you'll probably get floating buildings and things like that, but there's still some strata below that. And I think that's the things that things like Colbert Show. He's dancing on the floor, and then people say, okay, that's the floor, that's the ground itself. And the other people who are on floors above us doing things are not also based on that ground. Well, no, both those people are based on the ground. The elite up there are also doing other things that are still based on the same ground that Colbert might be doing in this more just blatant way. So this is something that I'm not entirely outside of doing. I'm also a human being like y'all listening to this. Maybe eventually some of this signal will be sent out and it'll be non-human beings, but if you're a sentient being listening to this, this is likely something that you do. We only have ourselves right now to absorb things from, our lived experiences. It's the lens that we see the world through. We apply it to our reality tunnel and see how it applies to us. But we can do it in a better way. We can do it in a more authentic way. It will never be 100% what it is because you're seeing it from your point of view with your history and things like this. But we can do better. And I am doing that, and I am blessed and thankful and privileged to find other people who value X, who value the accuracy or the reality of the truth value of things. Reality for it actually being truthful, as close as it is to the truth, is more valuable to me and some other people out there. And I think from history, from what we've seen, those improvements have come from the closer people are in tune with the truth value of actual reality. And I think most people value this, even if it's not what we always sell, even if it's not what we always market, even if it's not what we always choose and prefer at any given time. In general, it's a positive thing, and that's something that I am interested in doing. Going to be following more content of actual conversations, talking to people, trying to get to know what people are thinking, and go away from some of the things in the past that I was doing more of just looking at people and saying, no, they probably think this from a bad place. They don't want to do this because they're avoiding this other thing. They're trying to benefit from this. There's some people like that out there for sure on certain situations. But in general, I think people are good, and I'm glad that y'all listen to this. Thank y'all for this content. If you're interested in this whole human flourishing, this whole truth thing, and you're positive about where we are right now, even with the dangers in there, follow my content. There'll be more coming out towards that kind of idea and things like that. That's it for now. Goodbye.